Welcome to the space where creators have aligned a positive and intellectual collab of open minds. For sharing and learning from one another, it's a vibe. We do Rosa podcast on the mic. Subscribe, educators spitting bars. I guess you didn't know I'm multifaceted and humble, checking off life goals. The classroom is my comfort zone where I plant and sow seeds of knowledge, compassion, empathy, and hope. Reading is the key to unlocking your potential. Countless benefits, including cognitive and mental. Regardless of the genre, books are highly influential. Go get yours, I'll get mine. Making strides, monumental. Come rock with me and get down to this new jam. With my friends, I had a very simple plan. Educate the masses through books and life lessons. It's the grand slam. I'm out.
Sala Falava, and welcome to the Reads with Rosa podcast. I am really excited to introduce to you today's guest. She is a librarian who loves to binge read books and then review them on her podcast, The Binging Librarian. Welcome to the show, Christina Joe. Yo, I need that sound. I'm gonna invest. I need that sound. Help me out, sister. Give me the hints after. I need that sound.
How are you? It's all yours.
How are you, Christina?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Man, I'm good. Better now that we're finally connecting and doing this. I feel like been following you for a while, and I feel like we're never on IG at the same time. So just the fact that we're able, with the time difference, the fact that we're able to do this, I'm super, super grateful. How are things in your part of the world?
They're good. So I'm in Boston. I'm originally from Ohio, but I ended up going to undergrad in Springfield, Mass. And then I got my master's in Boston, and I just stayed out here. But as far as everything else, things are good. I think we're kind of like, we're still in a pandemic, but others, might say we're out of it. So it's always a toss-up, I guess.
Yeah. I have questions about Boston. I have questions about the pandemic in terms of your role and the work that you do in the community. So we're going to get there. But before we do, Christina, I want to give you this opportunity. I like to ask my guests, just a brief intro. I'm sure there was a whole bunch of things that I didn't mention. So please go ahead.
Sure. No, like I said, I'm from Ohio, but I ended up getting my bachelor's in Springfield, Mass, Springfield College, shout out to them. And then I did not want to go back home. So I ended up just applying to a library school out here in Boston. And I've been out here ever since. So that's going on 8 years. And I love it. So yeah.
That is awesome. I want to get into like your first memories of books or access to books and reading. I mean, you work in the community now, you work at the public library, but did you frequent the library when you were growing up, or was it more in school? Like where were you getting access?
Yeah, so it's funny because I remember the first time like actually getting into reading. I was probably, I think it was the fourth going into the fifth grade, because my school, they had like a reading competition. And I remember a friend of mine who was a year before me, she I think she won for the class. She either won for the class or it was for the entire school system. And I have always been a competitor. And I was like, I'm going to do this.
You're like, I'm taking everyone down.
Which I do have a short story after like leading up. But so that's how I kind of like got into reading. And the school that I went to was a very small private Christian school. And so it was, elementary, high school, and college. And they also had a campus library for the entire school. And so I remember after school, if I wasn't going to the after school program, I was at the library there. As far as outside of school, I would go to the public library, but it wasn't necessarily like, staying for programs. I mean, I probably went to a couple, but I wasn't heavily into the programming. It was more like I'm ordering books, I'm picking them up so that I can win this competition and then going home. And then, like college, it was a whole different world
Mm.
because, I'm living on campus, I'm far away from home, and I didn't feel like there was enough time to read. So there was a big hiatus, 4 years of just not really picking up any books. And I would say it probably wasn't until coming out here to Boston, getting settled within library school, where I kind of picked that back up again.
Tell us about library school, because man, yeah, take us through that. Like, how did you even decide that you were going to go to library school?
Sure. So it's probably not going to be a story that anyone would expect, but when I went to Springfield, I actually had plans on being a teacher, elementary school teacher.
Right. I was going to ask you that later too, but carry on, sis. Carry on.
Yes. And I kid you not, I went through both of my internships or practicums, and it was the summer between my junior and senior year where I was like, this is not for me. It wasn't the practicums. I actually loved it. I did a fifth grade class. I think it was science, a fifth grade science class, and a first grade ESL class. And first graders, I love them. And it was a great experience. But that senior year, I was just like, this is not it. And fortunately at the time, I was already working at the campus library for the past 3 years. And the librarians there, they were like, you can go to school to be a librarian, right? And I was like, no, tell me more. And they had mentioned there's a school out here called Simmons. And that was the only school that I applied to. Like I said, I didn't want to go back home. And put all the eggs in the basket. And fortunately, Simmons accepted me, and, it was a 2-year program, and here we are. So I think it's funny because when I tell people that I'm a librarian and that I had to go to school for it, they're like, you really have to go to school for that? And it's like, yeah.
I mean, I know you I've my good friends from work are teacher librarians, and I know they've done qualifications for it, but I was really curious about your experience in the US, and what does library school look like? And I was just wondering, for someone who may be listening who is from the US, like, what are there prerequisites to get into the school? Are there particular subjects you need to study? I mean, you did mention you started in education, and then that evolved, and you are where you are now. So what would you say to someone or people who are listening who would be interested in going to library school? What do you need?
Yeah, from my experiences and people that I know, you don't really have to take any extra courses or anything like that. I know a couple people who, they came from the medical field, and all of a sudden they became librarians, and so stuff like that. Like, you don't have to be in the education field to be like, hey, let me then jump to this. Another cool thing about librarianship is that there are so many different avenues. I think, people think, public libraries, academic libraries, and, just regular elementary school libraries. But, there's also law, there's music, there's even medical libraries. So there's so many different avenues that it's actually quite fascinating, what there is. And sometimes, I'll talk to people who I don't really know like that, like maybe not necessarily a patron, but maybe just a friend of a friend or something like that. And they're like, but what can you do with that? And then when I hit them with the Library of Congress, then it's kind of like, maybe I need to be quiet, so it's there's not any like shame, definitely not on my end, but I feel like, yes, there are some people who they just don't know, but there's a little bit of judgment. But, you can throw in a few, like, Library of Congress. What are you going to say now? Like, what if I want to do that,
Oh, that's so fascinating. And, honestly, I have huge respect for librarians. And, obviously some of my really good friends are the teacher librarians for elementary and middle high at my school.
Mhm.
But man, I just have so many fond memories of growing up, going to the public library, and the librarians were just the sweetest people. That they would ask me, what am I interested? I mean, I didn't know. I was just kind of there to kill time,
Right.
and then eventually got caught, the reading bug, and they were just amazing. And even our librarians at primary school or elementary, and then when I went on to high school, they were just always asking, like, what do you want to read? And if they brought in new books, I was always there first. Like, I really appreciated just the fact that they cared, that
Yeah.
I didn't know so much about books, but they were really asking me questions, like, okay, giving me recommendations. Like, those are some of the fondest memories I have of school days, is just being in the library. It's
Yeah.
such a safe space.
Yes. It's great. And if I'm jumping the gun, I
No,
apologize.
go ahead, you're fine.
But like even working here, so my position, and if I am jumping the gun again, I apologize. My position at the library is actually kind of, my title is floating, like a floater librarian. And what that means is I just go from branch to branch or department to department in the main library. So I'm not stationed at any one location. And it's really nice going back to what you were saying, back in high school or elementary school, going to the public library or the school librarian and the librarians giving you suggestions. It's just really neat when I'm covering, especially the teen room. The children's room, it's great. Or children's section is great. The children's librarians that I've worked with, amazing. But I think there is something a little bit special about a teen librarian to get that youth engagement. I feel like, we're now in a world of social media and TikTok, and, I feel like what was cool for us back then is not necessarily cool for what's now. So to see teen librarians engage with them, or just having a teen come up and it's like, can you give me a suggestion? I like this, this, and that. Like, it's just a very neat experience from that small sector of librarianship. At least for me,
I have to ask this because I remember you posted, like, I didn't even, I'm not sure. Like, I literally was Googling these photos, like, is this what the Boston Library looks like? Boston Public Library. Okay, let me tell you, I think I watch too much TV. That's the problem. I watch too much American movies, and I just have this image in my head of what an American library looks like. Massive looking building that's kind of on the outside could be a museum, but is a public library. So I remember you posted there, a while back, a picture showing the outside of the library, but it was the picture. I wrote the hashtag because I wanted to ask you. So you took a picture of a reading room, and what's the hashtag that you wrote? So there's a picture. Yeah. So there's tables and chairs. And oh my God, I have to say this, the green lamps. The green lamps that they show on TV. See, I'm sorry, forgive me. I watch too much TV, but it was like something out of a movie. Like, that's exactly how I imagine American libraries to be. And then, the hashtag said Bates Hall Reading Room. Please tell me, I watched too much TV, huh?
No. It's
Boston Library. Tell us about the Boston Public Library.
So I do want to clarify, I'm not speaking for them. Like, it is my job, not speaking for them, not trying to get in trouble with communications or anything like that. Talking about
the beautiful decor and the tables and all the lamps.
No, it is beautiful. So the library, Boston Public Library, the main branch at Copley Square, it's actually two separate not two separate. It's connected, but there are two buildings. There's the newer building. Don't ask me dates. Have never been to the dates. So, but so there's the newer building, and then there's the McKim or older side of the building, and that's where Bates Hall is. And yes, it is a huge room. The picture probably doesn't even do it justice.
I can imagine.
It's a huge room with green lights. And it's funny because research services used to be in that room. So we would get a lot of tourists that would come up and they'd be like, you must love working here. This is such a beautiful view, stuff like that. It is absolutely gorgeous. And they ended up moving us from that space. So it's not something I get to see every day. But from time to time, actually not from time to time, every day that I'm working here at this location, there's at least one patron that's like, so where's the Instagram room? Or
oh, that's the Instagram room? Gotcha. Okay.
The other day, my coworker and I, we got the question, and it was new to me, but another coworker said that she gets this all the time. Where's the Hogwarts room? And yes, and they're referring to Bates Hall or the reading room. So it's always fun and funny how patrons, tourists, visitors, whatever you want to call, when they come up and they ask specifically for that room. It even gets to the point now where before they even get it out, I know what they're going to ask. So it's always fun. It's a great time.
I was wondering, you mentioned, people are always shocked when you tell them about libraries and then you're name dropping these really, really cool libraries. And I was wondering, do you get to network with other librarians from around the country? Do you get to visit some of these amazing places, or is there just not enough time for that? Do you know?
So I personally I won't say I don't get the opportunity. I think just because of my position, because I'm not stationed in any one location, not that I don't get the opportunity, I just don't collaborate with other librarians from across the country or across the world. However, one of my goals in life that I started in 2019, right before the pandemic, or before a pandemic was, even a thing, was to visit all 50 states. And so in doing so, I have been able, I'm such a nerd that I do get a chance, I've gotten the chance, to go to some of the libraries and kind of converse with some of the librarians, there. I can't really say a favorite because I would feel so bad, but I have I have seen some beautiful libraries. I recently, just over Labor Day weekend, I just came back from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I mean, that's the most recent one. So I'm not saying it's the best or, it's the most beautiful, but that's the most recent. And it was very nice. I ended up meeting a librarian there who used to be in Boston. So, I make connections, just not enough to collab, I guess.
As a floater, you're not based in one place. So, you must be meeting a whole bunch of different people, on the daily, weekly. And I was wondering, if I was a fly on the wall, what would I be seeing, hearing, what conversations other than where is that reading room that's on Instagram? Do you know what I mean? I imagine your interactions with patrons must be super, super funny and very interesting.
Yes. So many things. No, it's I don't even know how to start without
take a deep
whatever.
breath, sis. Deep breath. You're fine.
Yes. No, it's great. There are so many different conversations, even that I overhear as a floater, if I'm walking by or something like that. There are some funny ones. To me, what would be funny might not be funny to others. But for example, I've gotten a Black man low key tell me that I'm racist towards him. And
carry on, continue, please continue. Did not expect you to say that, but continue.
So what happened, I'll tell it very shortly. He came into one of the departments, and this was before the pandemic. He came into one of the departments, and I had greeted him. I greet everybody, whatever. And he didn't respond, fine. And I sat him on a computer. He was doing his thing. Well, other patrons of different ethnicities and colors came in, and I was having a conversation and laughing and joking with them. And he comes back up one time and was like, you being a Black woman and me being a Black man, that's crazy. We should be, you shouldn't be this way and blah, blah, blah. I was like, I'm not having this. We're not going to keep doing
Not
this.
Today. Not
exactly,
today, Satan. Not today.
Not today. So he sat back down, stewing. And then a coworker of mine, which he did not know was a coworker, who happens to be a Black man, came up, and I was joking and laughing with him. And then he went on his way. The guy comes back up again and is like, I want your supervisor, like all of this stuff. To me, it's funny. Like I can laugh about it. To others, they might be like, what's funny about it? But I mean, this is something that happens in the library, at least with me. It's just, it can be a very wild time. But to talk about like good stuff, the library just offers amazing things. Like I told you off being live or off camera, like in the space that I'm in right now, it's part of the business library. So we have so many different like resources, that's available. We have like a long-term lending program where people who might not have access to a laptop or Wi-Fi, they're able to sign up through the library to potentially get one, and they have that for a year plus. So maybe not funny. Again, conversations to me hilarious. Somebody else might not think so. So let me turn it around as far as the resources that we have. That's just absolutely great. Yeah.
I want to just touch upon the pandemic, which you had kind of mentioned right at the beginning, and the impact in terms of your job, your role, and in terms of access and library books. And that must have been tough.
It was. So we shut down March 16th of 2020, and it was so obviously so sudden. I'm not sure, and can I ask like how that was for you guys?
We actually, when you mentioned that, I was like, I remember we shut down on the last day of February. So I can't remember if that was a leap year. It might have been February 28th.
Okay.
We completely, like, we had a few days. We had like a week and then a few days to quickly get things and move online. And for the first few weeks, we could go in and still get things prepared. But it was immediate shift. So, and then you guys not long after. So that's,
and it was very sudden. But fast forwarding, so they had us work from home. And I have to say, like, the library, again, amazing, because I know so many libraries, at least back home for me in Ohio, that they had to lay off librarians. And from my understanding, no one from BPO, got laid off. So I'm very fortunate, for the city, for the library, that wasn't the case. So we worked from home. Those who had to work like a public desk or at a branch, they brought us back for pickup to go. So you couldn't come into the library to like browse or anything like that, but it really was just picking up your books and leaving. And that happened for about pretty much a year. And I was actually stationed at a branch. And I wasn't floating or really moving around like I would normally do. And then I think it was June or July of last year, that's when they started to open back up. And then eventually because we had the mask mandate for a while here, at least for the library. We had the mask mandate for a while, and then that was lifted. And then we ended up going to Saturdays. And then now for the main branch, we have Saturdays and Sundays. So it was a very gradual thing, I think, for 2 years, which I don't know if it was really fast or, a good pace. Because again, traveling to other libraries in the country, some are still closed, like say on the weekends or, something like that, or the hours differentiate.
Yeah, but and then in terms, now that mostly everything, well, for where you are, patrons are there, and in terms of like safety measures and restrictions, is that gradually opening up? Like, I feel like, hearing stories from, and not libraries, but in general, like a lot of colleagues who are from the US and traveled home, and they couldn't, just the freedom to not wear mask. Like, I mean, it was like, they were like, it's normal, like, even going into restaurants and things like that. And so I was wondering, in terms of the spaces that you're working in, is it still very strict or?
No, no, we, I honestly don't remember when it was officially lifted, because we kind of had like a funny thing going on here, at least in Boston, because our mayor ended up becoming part of President Biden's team somehow. Politics, but part of his team. And so then we had a interim mayor, and then we ended up having to have an election. So, the interim, she had her way, even though it was a brief time, it was still kind of like things are somewhat lifted. And then we had a mayor who like kind of, might have reverted back at one point. So I honestly don't remember when everything was officially lifted. Here at the library, it's still optional. We're not going to be like, you have to wear a mask. But
sanitize or
like that's your body, your choice. It's up to you what you want to do. And for the staff perspective, I guess, we are not forced to not wear a mask. Like, we have the option as well, which is great. Because, it can be a lot sometimes, people, you would think whole pandemic, people would know personal space and boundaries.
Oy.
So it's like, I don't play
Don't even get me started, man. I mean, yeah, I can imagine for you. Oh, crazy.
Yes. And then
how do you deal?
Place, like, so my mask is with me all the time, unless I'm with people that I feel comfortable with. But
right.
Yeah, for the most part, it's, you choose, and there are still patrons that come in and they have their masks. So, it's absolutely a personal choice on how you want to, come in.
I was thinking about social media, social media in terms of like TikTok and, Instagram, there's Bookstagram, TikTok, there's Book Talk. And I was wondering, as you, move around different libraries, and are you seeing more people, colleagues making content? That's what I had to ask. I mean, like, for TikTok, like,
Yes. I think some of my colleagues try for the work perspective, like, to engage and stuff like that. Does it go over well? I can't be the judge of it, because I don't that's not my world. But for the most part, like, librarians are, I mean, obviously I cannot speak for the whole realm of librarians,
right,
but the librarians that I know, including myself, are like very introverted, and the whole TikTok, Instagram is pushing it, I feel like, for most of my colleagues. In TikTok, I just don't see that. Like they might be on it, but posting content, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on. I was gonna jump in, but I'll wait till you're done.
No, please.
You reminded me. No, it's so interesting listening to you. I was thinking about like TikTok. There are teachers on like I don't understand. Um, like, I mean, there's some, I don't want to say special, but there's just some very interesting folks out there dancing on tables, all that jazz, and I'm just like, when do you get time to do that and then actually teach? Like, I'm just curious. As you were talking, I was thinking about the table dancing TikTok educators. Just random thoughts. Sorry, carry on, sis. Carry on.
No. I mean, I'm right there with you. Like I said, I have not personally seen librarians try to do a TikTok. But I know at one point they were trying to implement it again to engage with the youth, specifically teens. And I don't know if the engagement was there. Nice try, I guess. I try to stay out of that.
And I say all this to say that there are some amazing educators who are doing so many cool things with social media and really trying to engage and connect their learners. It is really student-centered, but then there's some other crazy folks. It's like, oh, this about you. Gotcha. Okay.
So I have a question for you, because I know that you had mentioned that you like watch TV, like a lot of TV. So have you watched Abbott Elementary?
Oh yeah. My friend from he lives in Florida, and he like when that first came out, he was like, go to this link, watch this. I watched it all. I was just like, bro, is this for real? I was like, bro, there were so many instances in that where I was just like, oh, that resonates. And then I was thinking, oh my God, I have a colleague like that.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, I know someone like that. That's how sad it was. That was something else. It was so good.
Yes.
Like, it was so good.
And I love that it was.
Is there a season 2 out or not yet?
Yeah, so they just started season 2, I think either like this past week or the week before.
Okay. So I haven't missed much.
Yeah. And like you, I also binged it because it's randomly on HBO Max, and because I don't have Hulu, or like I don't have regular TV. You didn't ask for this, but here we are. So I binged it, and I was like, I am obsessed. And so I probably will also wait for season 2 to be done and then end up binging it. So I have no idea what's happened in the past.
It's so good. Like, honestly, it was so bad that I was watching it, laughing my head off, also feeling sad that I knew people like that. I was just like, I don't know. Should I be recommending this to folks at school? Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe look at me being
they
more
might
judgmental.
see themselves in it.
I was just like, some people gonna end up crying because they're gonna see themselves in this series. Man, but it's so good, eh? So good. I was curious about, like, as a librarian, 2020, obviously the pandemic, the world is shutting down. A lot of protesting going on, Black Lives Matter, George Floyd's death. I asked this because as an educator, all of a sudden people were like wanting to read whatever books they could get their hands on. They needed to know what their unconscious biases were and all this, and what was the white person's perspective, and what were BIPOC authors writing about, what does injustice look like? And I was wondering, from your perspective as a librarian, was there an increase in demand for books written by BIPOC authors during this time? In education, people rush and they get like grabbing whatever, and then all of a sudden it's like Black History Month, right? It's like the 1 month, and it's like, yo, you got every other month of the year to read these amazing books written by Black authors, and yet it's focused solely. Sorry, I went off topic, but
no.
Any thoughts on that, in terms of the spaces you were working in and what your experiences for that was?
Yeah. So again, 2020, I was stationed at one branch, and I was able to kind of see the bags that we would get in, the most, I don't want to say most popular book. Well, I guess, yeah, the most popular books that were being requested, and stuff like that. There definitely was an influx of BIPOC authors. I'll be honest, I do not remember those books that were out, but yeah, I mean, there was a lot. It was very heavy over here, with a lot of emotions, and so reading in general was very, it was very heavy. Kind of going back, because I don't think I fully answered your question, and then I promise I'll spin back around.
You're good, sister. Good.
You had asked, like, during the pandemic, like, how else did the library kind of make materials accessible? And one thing, like, that we did do, not only was it BPL to go, but we also did a lot of ebooks and audio books. And so, so people who did not feel comfortable going outside at all, doesn't matter if it was, pick up to go, or even just going to the grocery store, they had that access to be able to, download the apps or read it on their browser, and very accessible. So yeah, I just wanted to I didn't want to leave that out.
You're good.
But again, kind of like fast forwarding to the most recent question. Yeah, there was a lot. Yeah, it was just it was a time, a very heavy time, and well, I don't know how else to say this, but to add on to all of this, the library, supported Black Lives Matter. So all of the branches had a sign in the window that, said Black Lives Matter. And, a lot of the public appreciated that. Like, they stand with their Black and brown librarians, library assistants, and other staff members. But then you also had a good chunk of people that, like, would physically take the flag down, or, call City Hall. Like, it was really when I tell you it was a heavy time, it really was. Yeah, it was. I mean, fortunately, that I know of, no one at the library got seriously hurt or hurt at all. But it was very tense. But again, to actually answer your question, I feel like I saw an influx of Black and brown authors that you probably wouldn't see otherwise, outside of Black History Month, or like Hispanic Heritage Month, or Asian.
AAPI.
Yes. Thanks for coming in, because I probably butchered it, but we had an understanding. You knew what I meant. My heart was in the right place.
Of course.
But you wouldn't. I feel like you wouldn't see that otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to ask that, just being an educator from my perspective, in our space that we work in. My friend is the teacher librarian, and she does a lot of work, to try and get in more diverse texts that reflect our learners. And yeah, like you said, I mean, in our space, definitely an influx of, like, there was an increase in demand for, bringing in these, like, books, about unconscious bias, diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, liberation, definitely a lot of interest. But of course, that, Black Lives Matter, the marginalized communities, the plight of marginalized communities and BIPOC folks, that doesn't just disappear. I mean, it doesn't, so
we're here, like,
the struggle continues. And so, as it is in education, a lot of buzzwords are dropped, a lot of books are, put in the spotlight, but then you could tell that over time people were just kind of like, oh yeah, right, we did order all those books and they're just kind of sitting there. Oh right, and it just became this, like, everyone rushed because they wanted to read a book, and then it was just like, over time, it's just really few people, few teachers are actually still, trying to be better, trying to do better, trying to learn, unlearn, unpack, decolonize the mindset, all of that. So that's why
Yes.
I was so curious about the spaces that you work in. And
Yeah. Another point I just want to say real quick. So a couple weeks or so ago, there was a book and writers festival here at one of the other branches, and I ended up, like, it was a very informal interview with an author, and I had asked her, like, how did you come up with this book? Shout out to her. The book is called Ben and Patrice, by Catalina Gamera. Anyways, so I had asked her, like, how was the writing process, because she ended up doing it in, like, definitely less than a year. And she was saying, which was very interesting, that I've never ever thought of, when President Trump, when he was president versus compared to President Biden, the writing demand or the stories were very different. I believe she said, kind of like after he was elected, and especially 2020, it was already heavy, tense, as we talked about. Kind of the demand was more like, publishers wanted light reading versus, like, the heavy stuff, because the book that I just said, it's like a romance, not necessarily young adults, but the characters are young, and, stuff like that. So her process was, like, the publishing companies did not want whatever she was going to originally do. So she ended up busting this, like, romance novel within a short amount of time, because of the demand. And I just thought that was very interesting, because I write, but not like that. Definitely not like that. But even as a reader, I don't think that way. I just look at a book,
right,
read the description, and kind of go from there on whether or not I want to pick it up. So it was just a very interesting take on even the writer, the authors, in general, their process, and how that all works.
That's crazy, because I'm just thinking, publishing companies, people who are in those spaces and have access to that decision-making table, gatekeeping, like, the industry. I was just thinking that as you were telling me that story, I was just like, wow.
Yeah. It's wild. It really is. Now, can I ask, in Japan, was it as tense there for you guys?
You mean with the whole Black Lives Matter?
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah,
and,
we had protests here. We went to the protests. Like, a lot. We had students at my school who were, they were turning up to protests, and for the cause and stuff. It was intense because a lot of the protests were. There were Japanese people, but also a big number of foreigners supporting, Black Lives Matter. So obviously, the way they were policing Black Lives Matter protests, like in Tokyo, for example, where we went, so different to the radical, crazy, nationalistic Japanese political protests that go on. These people, you got to see it, like YouTube. These old growing ass, excuse my language, men, firing insults at each other, and they're, it's pretty, like, they get to do their thing. But definitely, policing Black Lives Matter was more. It was just, there was a lot of extra security, which actually made me think about, obviously the Russian Ukrainian war, and when that kind of first started, a lot of the conversations that I was having with, my colleagues who are BIPOC educators was that, we were obviously we knew what was happening. We're seeing it play out in the media, but we were talking about marginalized folks and communities, BIPOC people that were being stopped at borders. So we were talking about those conversations, and they had a big protest here. And it was so interesting because it was very, there was a lot of DC folks, it was very dominant culture kind of. But I did not see as many police as what we experienced when we went to Black Lives Matter. So that was interesting. Like, I was being a hater over here watching the news, like, oh, okay, I see how it is. But Japan and political like protests. It's just it's a whole weird, different environment here.
Yeah. It's interesting for someone who, like, to hear from someone who's not here, how I guess other countries perceived us. There's a book, which an episode is going to come up soon, definitely by the time this is posted, by the time yours is posted. But there's a book called The Woman in the Library by Solari Gentile, and a coworker and I, we did the episode together because it's actually taken place in Boston Public Library. And
okay, I'm curious. Yeah. I need to find the book. You do not get to tell me that. I'm like, hey, cut it out. I need to find this book. Oh.
Yes, and it's a murder mystery. That happens here at the library. But I do say that's definitely not a plug. I mean, I won't be like, don't listen to the episode, but it wasn't meant to be a plug.
Plug it, sis. Put it in there. You do you, man. That's why you're here, man. I'm about giving you your flowers and just definitely highlighting what you do, for real.
No, you're amazing.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. So
thank you. But yeah, so this book, The Woman in the Library, like, things happen, and it's interesting because the characters, I mean, you might be able to guess what their ethnicities are because she doesn't outright say, like, white, black, whatever. But anyways, the point, my coworker and I, we were talking about it, and there's a scene where one of the characters kind of bring up, okay, let me preface this by saying this is a very meta book. So what I mean by that is, for people who might not know, is like, so Solari has not been, or the author, I don't know her like that. The author, I don't want anybody thinking that we're,
you guys are like tight or something. Hey,
let me not get too comfortable by doing that. But the author had never been to our library, so she actually had a correspondent here like kind of describe the city and the library and stuff like that, right? So that's real life, very real life. But then in the book, it's also the same way. So one of her characters has never been to the library, but that character is writing another character who's in the library. Oh, it's very meta.
Yeah.
So there's that. But anyways, the correspondent in the book asks the author in the book, like, is this character black? Because if he's black, we have the protests that are going on. We have, like, if he's wearing a hoodie, like, that's important. Like, because if he's black, he might automatically be guilty, versus if he's white, it's a pass. If he's living in this neighborhood, that matters, because, like, it was a whole thing. And my coworker, Maggie, she was like, it's an interesting take, because I didn't think of it this way. It's an interesting take on how other countries might have viewed what we were going through, because it's going to be different, like, yeah, you had riots, but or protests, maybe not riots, but you other countries, stuff like that. But I don't think it would have been as intense compared to here.
Oh yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from. I mean, The other thing about Japan, okay, so I'm from New Zealand, and they had, they had they were protesting in support of Black Lives Matter there. Um, and so I'm just going to talk about Japan and what I was seeing. And actually, Trump, when he was president, it was very a lot of the news. He was on the news like all the time. Like the media here is it's a bit wonky like that, like almost like pro Trump.
Y'all are
Don't
not
quote me
the
on that, fam. Don't quote me. This is just what I'm seeing on TV at that time, and I really did not like how they portrayed Black Lives Matter. It was always very negative. And I'm actually gonna something else that really bothers me. While we're talking about this is I don't know if you know the tennis player Naomi Osaka.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So she is. I love her. She's awesome, and it's been very public knowledge that she, a lot of mental health, like just
Right.
wellness issues, right? And I'm like, she's young. Come on, man. Let this young woman, amazing role model, let her breathe, man. Give her. But I hate the way they portray her here. Like she steps out of line, and you should see the photos they attach to the article. Like I swear, like I'm not making this up, and you can even look online after, like, look at Japanese newspapers and how. And I mean, she's Japanese. She's half Japanese. Like how they portray her, like it's always in a very borderline kind of like read between the lines, very negative way. And it's just kind of like the photos. It's like when can we actually talk about how she's just a really good role model, great role model, young woman who has achieved so much in
Right.
show her beautiful, show her as a beautiful
Yeah.
young woman. But man, that's my pet peeve on social media when I'm reading articles about her. Maybe she's like bowed out of a competition real early or something, and it's always just the worst photo. I'm like, what the so that I was just reminded of that as we were talking, like how I see like Black Lives Matter and things like that, even Trump at that time. And his rhetoric, his like racist, negative narrative that him and those folks are putting out there. It was just like real, it was ugly as, like, I literally would like mute and just switch channels because I did not like how they were very pro him, but then they show like Black Lives Matter. It was always about aggression.
Yeah.
And I, as someone who lives here, but I have friends who are educators, Black educators, amazing folks in the US. And I'm freaking out because I'm just like, are you guys okay?
Yeah.
Is it safe at your school? Are your families safe? Like I was there. I'm just checking in again. I'm just
Yeah.
how are you all doing? And some friends who are not educators, just doing their thing out there, trying to make a living for their family. And I'm just like, is it safe? Like, that's such a, I don't know. Is that question? I don't know. Should I be asking? Because I worry, like.
Yeah, I worry, and I'm here. Like it is really crazy over here on this side of the world. Like even with like Asian Americans or just Asian immigrants, not necessarily here in Boston, but like I see even news reports in New York where they're just like randomly getting attacked. Not to make it even more dark, but like when we did open with the schools, going back physically versus, no longer on Zoom or the hybrid, but like actually going back to school, and then you get school shootings. Like that is scary. Like I might not be in a school, but that is terrifying. Like you were not, like a child was not in school. The parents did not have to worry about their kids going to like physically in school for like 2 years. And then all of a sudden we're going right back to what it was before the pandemic. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's scary on this side of the world.
You know,
I love it, but it's
have you ever wanted to like move abroad? I
Yes.
know that there are also, when I think of educators that I've connected with online through Twitter, you know, with other teachers and stuff, and there are so you know, there are like Black educators, like BIPOC, they've left the States just for the safety of their families and giving their children an opportunity to just live in a safer environment. So have you?
Yes. Have I thought? Absolutely. And you know, it doesn't help. I mean, it does, but like seeing, you know, on my feed, like Black travelers who, you know, ended up just staying outside of the US, like just packing up everything and going. Like, absolutely, I have thought about it. I think I know because my roots are here, like in the US. It would be difficult for me personally just to be like, oh, I'm leaving the country. See you later. But I absolutely have thought about it, even to the point where, I mean, granted, it's not necessarily like living abroad, but going back to librarianship, there's actually like on cruise lines, not all of them, but some cruise lines, they actually have libraries and you can, you know, there's a library.
There you are. I can see it now. Your name in neon lights. Get onto it.
And that has been a goal. When I found that out, probably 2014, 2015, I was like, I want to do that. Like, that's going to be me. Haven't done it yet, but you know, there's still time. So I feel like it's like being realistic and like, you know, and granted, it's not leaving the US because I'd come right back, but I feel like that would be the closest of kind of getting away from the madness that is here.
You know, you mentioned your podcast, so let's when did you start the pod? Let's talk about the Binging Librarian podcast. That's what's up, fam. Gotta check it out. She binges books and she reviews them, sometimes with guests. But yes, like tell us about obviously, how did you get into podcasting? Take us through the journey thus far.
No, it's really not that exciting of a story. It's not. No, I mean, the pandemic happened and it was kind of like, I kind of want to do something. And that was it. Before I was actually working in retail. So I would work here, normal schedule, whatever, but like on the weekends, I might go into work in retail. And so I was always busy. So when the pandemic happened, it was kind of like, I don't know what to do, you know, after, because I got laid off and, you know, stuff like that, which was great, a blessing in disguise. But yeah, it was just kind of, you know, what to do. So I was like, well, I love to read. I like to talk about what I read. Let me do this thing. So yeah, again, not an exciting story, but that's kind of, that's what happened. And thank you. I just want to say thank you for your support. Like,
I mean,
I love that.
I don't know if people know this, but a lot of my guests on the podcast have been people that I follow. Like, I just love seeing what people are doing, and I love music. I love the arts. I love books. Obviously, I'm an educator, so gotta give flowers to my fellow educators. And then as a librarian, that's a form of education in itself. But also you're a podcaster. So I like to, if I get an opportunity, I've been able to just highlight some other podcasts that I love what they do, man, and just the messages that they're putting out there. So I can't even remember how we connected, but we have mutual friends. And I was just like, you know, I'm like, you know, I have a wish list of guests, and I'm always trying to think of, you know, the people that I follow and enjoy the content that they create, and how can I highlight that? it's stuff that I enjoy. So how can I put the spotlight on these people, and just, give them their flowers? So I was just like, hey, the binging librarian, what is this? What is this? So, how do you, yes, we know that you're a bookworm. How do you choose your books? Like, is it through work and what comes in, or are you generally kind of like, okay, that's been on my list, I got to read that?
It's
and I'm
really
gonna review.
It's really a combination of both. I like when I do circ. So kind of going back to my position very quickly, I'm able to obviously be a librarian, but I might go over at a branch that needs a library assistant. And they usually do the circ work, so like checking in the books and stuff like that, and other like DVD, CDs, so on. And so a lot of that is through checking in the books. Like, okay, I'm seeing that this is coming up a lot. Let me see what it's about. Our website, and I think a lot of at least public libraries, also have this on their website, but they'll have like on order or new books, stuff like that. So you kind of see. That's also something that, I kind of base it on that. And then there are just authors that I like look forward to, that it also goes based on that. So my selection is really everywhere.
Right.
And when people are like, or patrons are like, oh, can you give me a suggestion on like romance or whatever? Like, I don't read that many romance books. I just like what I like. And it just kind of goes from there.
Do you have plans to grow your podcast, outside its current format, or are you, in terms of just trying to balance other things in your life that's going on and work, it's kind of like you're good where it's at right now?
I'm content. Like for the year, so it turned a year. Sometime this year. I don't know. I don't keep track with that, but I'm like, whatever. But like a yearly goal, like it would be nice to see this. And if it doesn't happen, it's fine. It's to me, it's not a big deal. I'm chilling, and also too, like, would I like to see it expand? Sure. But I also know, and I am self-aware that I am not consistent. Yeah. So you might have noticed a good chunk of the summer, I was not posting. To be fair, though, we had a staff competition, and that was like posting was not on my mind.
Right. Once again, you just out there trying to beat everyone, huh? You're like, I'm coming for you.
Don't play with me. I won again. Don't play with me. No, I'm kidding.
I did see that. Actually, it's funny. It's so funny. I was thinking, I was like, I wonder if she's got it nearby. No, surely she doesn't. Ta-da!
Yes. You're about the first one outside of work and family on Bookstagram that knows. But yeah, like
show that off. Show that off.
But yeah, no. So like I am self-aware that I am just not consistent, compared to others, which I have to give you your flowers because you are consistently posting.
Hold on. let me stop you there. I appreciate you, sis. Thank you so much. That means a lot. But it was so funny when you mentioned summer. Because when I went home, like I stayed for summer school in June. Then I went home. I was home for 5 weeks from July to August because we have a long summer break. And then everything that I was posting, like just everything that was scheduled for July to like probably the third week of August, for like 8 weeks straight was just stuff I had done. Like that's how I am. Like when I go home, like I'm like disconnecting. I'm real intentional in how I use my social media time. So I'm not always on there. I'll bookmark things and then share them in a big go on stories if I'm on there. But I appreciate what you said. But I was listening to you and I was like, I feel that. I'm totally like, that's me in summer. I always plan ahead and be like,
So let me ask, do you have any like tips, or are there certain like what's your, I know you just pretty much said your strategy, but like so and I know you'll interview other people. So like, are you
Mm.
going to wait until July of next year for like just a rollout that way? I'm just
Oh,
curious.
so like, oh, you okay? So in terms of rolling out the interviews, recently, because I kind of like had pretty much rolled out everything I had
Mhm.
from August. Yeah. So the past few weeks I have been really busy at school. I'm studying, so I've just been recording on the weekends. Bless your heart. We're here. We're here right
Bless
now.
you. What are you talking about?
Appreciate that. So, I've just been probably the last few weeks, like weekly and then release. But then I'm at the point where I've gotten ahead again a little bit, because depending on the time difference, where people are in the world, and then damn, New Zealand has just done their daylight savings, so now they're 4 hours ahead. So even that is a mission. Before it was like 3 hours, and I'm like, we're good. But now even scheduling New Zealand interviews, I mean, at least for us, it's you were at 9:30 your time, which was 10:30 evening, like where it was good. But it's so hard when I'm like trying to schedule around Australia, New Zealand time. But well, I'm sorry, long story,
No,
making this into a very long story, which I don't need
no.
to. But um in terms of tips, like, I'm just, if I know uh there is like reporting period, like I have to look at my schedule, because I love the podcast, but my job is like, I'm a teacher, so I look at the schedule, and if I know reports are coming up, like winter break, we come back from winter break, and I think it's the second week of January, and then semester reports are due end of January. So I know that before that time, I've got to like sort out, like, this is why I have a wish list for podcasts. I have this whole system, like, where I reach out on social media, and then I ask for the email, and then I send out it. I like just try and be official. I know not many people email these days, but I try and follow the DM up with an email so that they can see, I'm trying to be professional. So
Yeah.
it's those little things, make a difference. And of course, I'm just trying to be flexible as much as I can in terms of availability, because I know everyone's busy, super busy with their own lives. Tips are really, I'm not very organized, like in other things I do, but I love the podcast, and for some bizarre thing, I'm just like organized as.
Yeah.
I hope my school's not judging that. No one watches me anyway. They don't know I have this other life, eh? They're like, they don't know. No one's interested in what I do. Like, I fully disconnect from work. Okay, that's such a random ass side story, but sorry.
No, I love that. I
That
love
was
it.
so long. Sorry. I don't know if I answered your question. Tips, I don't know.
It's
Be
great.
organized, plan around what else is going on in your life. So that
I'm
includes
sorry.
travel.
Wait, say that again.
I was just like, another tip is just planning around, like, yeah, definitely checking the schedule, what else is going on, especially work. But if I know I'm traveling, I'm trying not to interview during the time that I'm like going on a trip and stuff. So I try and
Yeah.
just do beforehand. Yeah.
Now, have you? And which I love that, because why would you work on while traveling? But no, have you been to the States?
Oh, okay. Funny story. Okay, maybe you don't. Maybe you won't find this funny. I'm sure people are sick of me telling the story, but basically, I was coming to the States. I was due to fly out. I had my flight, hotel, everything booked. I was super excited because I was gonna go to Washington. DC, no,
DC?
Washington, where they have all the like museums and I was coming to Baltimore,
Okay, yeah.
Maryland.
Yep.
There was this big Catholic schools conference that was happening there, and it was going to be April 2020. So, like, we were, and by December, January, we were all booked. Like, here's your flight details, your seat selection. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to America. Oh my God. I was so excited. I had downloaded an app. I was going to go check out some libraries, check out these museums and all this cool stuff in Washington, like not far. I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, can I go to New York? Oh, anyways, our school shuts down in February, and I'm like, oh, there might still be hope. And then they're like, sorry, all people, like, there were teachers going to Thailand for professional development. maybe like we all got shut down.
No.
It was the saddest thing. But then when I was watching and seeing, all these things happening in the US, I was like, I would never ever go to America. I was like scared, man. Like I'm like, maybe I need to stop watching the news and their negative vibe.
Yeah,
So
I have
that's
to tell you,
a long story.
No. I mean, I asked. No, but like going back to that though, the news is very frightening because it's so much negative coverage.
Yeah,
that it even goes into like social media. Like I had to delete Facebook because it was just at the time it was during Trump's presidency, and there was just so much going on. That I don't blame you for being like, I'm never going. I'm never going
scared.
there. But we're not all bad.
Yeah, and so I have some really beautiful friends, like I love them so much. Good friends from the US, and they get me. They're like always hyping me up. Like, yeah, when you come, we're gonna do this because I love theme parks. Like I'm that person. Like I'm scared of heights, but I love theme parks. So I'm a roller coaster, like crazy about roller coasters, but I'm scared of heights. Don't ask me how that makes sense because it doesn't.
I'm right there with you. It's all good.
So they're like, oh, we gotta eat this and we gotta eat that, and then my thing is like, okay, guys, don't laugh, but can I eat a taco? And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah. I'm assuming it's better to eat that when I come there. Like, I didn't think what we're eating here is the real thing. They're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to eat. I think it's because I watched Trevor Noah. I love Trevor Noah.
Okay.
Yep. So he does this little skit about eating tacos for the first time. Yeah. That's why I was like adamant, when I go to the US, I have to eat a taco. Or maybe I need to go to Mexico for I don't know. I'm super confused about that. I don't know. But my friends, yeah, they're like, it's okay, we got you.
Well, I was going to say, like, the East, actually really everywhere. Because I was going to say the East Coast, but then I'm like, I've also been to the West Coast and obviously Midwest. But like, really, like, our cuisine is just like, it's good. There's so many options and so many variations that, yeah.
Stop
it.
it.
And now, if you come to Boston, I got you.
Have you met a lot of authors through your work?
No, I am not popping like that. So, which is fine. No, I do follow, and there's some independent authors, we follow each other. You are amazing because you will reach out and be like, hey, are you interested in, like, you'll take the chance.
Yeah.
And I am just not, I'm not there yet. It's different talking to someone in person, or like, you are hold on, I got to give you your flowers again. Your energy, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination, am I that person that's like, oh, your energy is like, I can tell your energy is bad, or your energy, I'm not that person. And I don't really like when people are like that, but you have such a vibe about you, even through like an online presence, that is just amazing. And I hope you know that.
Thank you.
Do. Like, it's amazing.
I just honestly get excited, like, when I have guests come on, and I love what they do. Like, and I'm a huge music fan as well. So I've had some of my favorite rappers come on here. I mean, these people, like, they're amazing. And I've had like educators, just so many different people just doing cool things, man. I love the performing arts. And I've never interviewed, a librarian / educator, because it is a form of education. So I was excited. I mean, I knew you were a podcast host, but I was like, yo, this is so looking at things through another lens. And I really just wanted to pick your brain. Obviously, these are your experiences, which, of course, super important. But yeah, I appreciate
it's
that.
amazing.
Thank you. Thank you
really
so
is.
much.
And, I was going to say, like, you probably know, like, talking in person, or probably even for you, even through Zoom or like an online service, it's, I don't know, it's kind of different than like talking online or trying to engage them that way. But you're just so good that you're actually making me want to think about having the authors that I do follow.
Honestly, sis, you like, I was just like, you're a vibe. You like, worst case scenario, like, honestly, oh, that would be another tip. Listen to me just dropping these tips, like, but I was just thinking, like, you are a vibe, so why not reach out? Why not reach out to those amazing authors, indie authors? Like, I think if anything, again, highlighting their platform, independent artists, authors. It's hard, man. It's hard, and I just like to give people their flowers, and I enjoy. I know, like, it's hard when you sometimes, like, for yourself, meeting you for the first time, and I freak out because I'm like, oh, I don't want to come across, just got to try and be organic and natural, just to kind of cultivate like a safe space, because obviously, we all have our stories, and I'm always mindful of the line of questioning, and doing, like, if I'm highlighting someone's art or their music or their platform, that I'm doing it justice. Otherwise, there's no point in bringing the guest on, and it's just like, you don't highlight anything, so I appreciate it, like, thank you for your kind words.
Yeah,
I hope that you
absolutely.
feel, okay, and we've been having some good laughs.
Yeah.
I feel like I've known you for ages, but it's been
Right?
like,
Like, it's not awkward at all. And maybe you had to go through this, but like, sometimes when you're meeting somebody for the first time, and
I'm anxiety. I'm the worst. Sis, I'm so bad. Like, you mentioned being an introvert, right back at the beginning when we started chatting, and I was just like inside, like, yep. Oh, I totally get that. I totally get that. But I love that you can just talk. Like, for me, I can't just talk on my own. Like, I have to be engaged with talking to someone, and building the conversation that way, because I have other friends who have their own podcasts, and they're just, man, they're always dropping gems, and I'm like, how do they do that for like 40 minutes, just dropping gems and good vibes and lots of
I'll
love?
give the vibes. I don't know about the gems from my part, but I'll give the vibes. No, it's, I think what I've learned being a librarian is like just listening, because people, I had this conversation with a few coworkers where, you'll have patrons come up that wicked excited about, or they just want to rant or vent about a book that they read or some show that they watched that they either liked or they disliked. And, it's easy to engage in that regards, but it's also, I think, important because they just want to let it out versus I don't need to say anything about it, or I'm also really good with, like, if I see a book that they're going to check out or they return and I've either watched the show or I've already read it, like, oh, what did you think about it? Or have you seen the adaptation of it? And it just, it just kind of goes from there. But I think I get away with it just because I listen.
Yeah. And for sure. And yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to think about how whether you're going to reach out to some authors and do your thing. Like, I'm excited for that. I wanted to ask about Banned Books Week, because I follow the the American is it Library Association? Like, I follow them on Twitter, and I've always been super curious about banned books. And it was Banned Books Week in the States. Was it like the 18th, last week, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
So I was wondering, thoughts on banned books, because there's a whole conversation behind it, and I know it goes in a lot deeper in terms of the US, like.
Yeah. So what our librarians here, because I can only speak here in Boston, I'm sorry. The librarians for both like children's and young adults, like they will make displays, to be like, hey, these are banned. And it you either pick up a book or you don't. I feel like if there are complaints, from my experience, I've never gotten it. Like I haven't had a patron come up when I'm covering a desk or a branch, and they're like, "No, no, 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 no." Right. If anything, they might like call to City Hall or something like that. It's also one of those things that it can be intense because people are very opinionated on why we have these books, but also like you don't have to read them. Like,
yeah. That's what I don't get. It's like, why are you kicking up a stink? Just don't.
You don't have to read them. And, I guess the argument could be, well, children are reading them and it promotes blah, blah, blah. But like, have you actually read the book? Like, you're causing this whole hoopla about it's banned for this reason, but have you actually read it? Anyways, that doesn't answer the question, but in the regards of like the librarians here, if they have the space, they're gonna promote it because that's what we're here for, to provide access to materials, whether they be books, DVDs, CDs, computers, electronic materials, whatever, so that the public, should they choose to access it, have that ability. Who are we to be like, you shouldn't read this or you can't read this? That's, in my opinion, that's not what we are here for, to gatekeep what someone should or should not read.
Good point.
I obviously I cannot speak for
my
other colleagues, let alone librarians across the country, but that's just how I feel. It's like that's, who am I really?
Hey, I was wondering, who are you? You're the binging librarian. Stop it. I got you. I was like, hey, I see what you're doing there. Cut it out. I wanted to ask, are there books by Pacific Island authors? Now, I know when we say Pacific Island, it covers, it's the whole AAPI thing is a very complex space in terms of, Pacific Island, Asian American Pacific Island. So I was wondering, have you seen, or AAPI month, are there displays that show Pacific Island authors? Yeah.
So I'm gonna sound awful. There definitely are displays when it's that time of the month. There are displays like for and I'm going to answer the question, I promise.
Yeah,
for Hispanic Heritage Month, like there are.
Is that now or is it wrapping up? Wait, it's now, right?
It's going on.
Or is it done?
No, I think it's still going on. I think it happened mid-month.
Gotcha.
Hold on.
Right.
I should know this.
No, I should know, because I remember, I think I posted something in my story, but I was like, wow, have I not been, did I just miss the whole of that month? Like,
no. It's, it goes until October 15th. So it was mid-September. And so like right now they have, authors of, Hispanic descent and so on and so forth. Which is great because someone like me, I go based on the cover, the title, and then the description. I definitely judge a book by its cover.
I do too. I'm so bad. I tell my, don't judge a book by, don't just choose based. And then I'm in the library like, oh man, this cover is cool as. Trying not to hide from my students so they didn't see me. Go figure.
I mean, I feel like sometimes you should because I don't know. My thing is like if the cover is not appealing to you, then the only thing else you have is the title and then the description. And if they are not good to you, I'm not gonna read it, you know? Nah. So but to answer your question, I have not read too many Asian Pacific Islander authors, which is very unfortunate on my part. I know that. One that I did read, this was a while ago, but I believe she's Vietnamese. A Pho Love Story by Lani Alo, and that's good. That would be something that I would recommend. I think she writes it. First of all, the cultural aspect is shown in the book. It's YA, but it doesn't feel YA, if that makes sense. Because sometimes I feel like as an adult, I'm like, this might be okay for me, or I'm just not the target audience, you know, which is also fine. But that one I felt like it's really good. She shows that cultural aspect, the cuisine of the Vietnamese culture. And it's funny because one of my best friends from college, she is Vietnamese. So I kind of have a little bit of taste of the culture, obviously not a lot, but like enough to, as I was reading it, I'm like, oh, this is really good. So that is one that I can shout out. But because and it's not an excuse, and you're challenging me to be better when it is that time to like actually like pick up, you know, an author related to the month.
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to just pick your brain about that. You know, I was wondering like what displays are on. Obviously AAPI it's an American, but for us, like for me, you know, I have a Bookstagram account. I try to highlight new books that are being published, ready to drop from Pacific Island authors, and not necessarily from the US, not many, but definitely in the Pacific, in New Zealand, in Aotearoa, in Australia, in Samoa, being Samoan myself. So so I was just like curious, like what does that look like in your particular setting? And obviously you're just speaking from your experiences. It could be different everywhere else. So I really just wanted to pick your brain about that, because, you know, AAPI month, what I see on Bookstagram is like on Audible, for example, on Scholastic, you know, those companies that are really big, like book publishing and all that. They say Pacific Island, but it's not Pacific Island authors, you know, it's real, like, I think American, like in America, Pacific Island it's classed, there's a wider group. Like for us from the Southern Hemisphere, Pacific Island is like, we're Pacific Islanders, you know, so we already like, this is what Pacific Island is. But I think in the States it's more complex. There's a wider group of communities that ethnicities that it covers. So it's always interesting to see what some of these big, like even Goodreads, like I'm such a hater, man. I'm like, there are people posting on there, like on Goodreads, about how they're reading these amazing Pacific Island authors. And I'm like, on the map, like, what up to, man? What what? That's not a Pacific Island author, you know. And then you got like DC folks in there, or like, I mean, I saw that like this year, man. I was like, I'm not even gonna engage with these idiots. I'm not even gonna engage with these damn DC fools up in here, like trying to talk like they know. Like shut up about BIPOC. You don't even know. Shut up, seriously. Stop it right now.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it is interesting, not only from like, say, you know, Goodreads and the other big publishing companies, as you were saying. But, you know, there's also, I feel like, taking into account there's also like Reese Witherspoon and her book club, and then Oprah has one, and like all these like big celebrity. Well, I don't know why I use quotes, but like they are actually.
Oh, why am I going like this? Like, yes, sis. Yeah, exactly.
Celebrities. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No, but like these, these big, well-known celebrities that they have these book clubs, and the holds here skyrocket, once that one person just gives a shout out or whatever. But then there's also like book talk, and it's I don't know what it is about. I don't have a TikTok. I don't plan on getting one, but it's just amazing and fascinating how like a book will blow up.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that BIPOC authors have that, especially the Asian Pacific Islander authors. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're right about book talk. There are books that blow up on there, and I'm just like, I'm like watching it. Like, first of all, I know this is a DC person. I'm looking at the account like, oh, okay, and then I'm looking at the book like, did you even look at, like, yeah, definitely. I mean, TikTok is, there's been a lot of like controversy also because, in terms of creatives and performers, dancers, the guidelines, a lot of promotion of DC folks, and then Black creators are ignored or appear less, on the feed. So there's all that, and I mean that's across really like all social media. But I was just, because you mentioned TikTok, I was like, because there's some, I'll just let me just say this one thing about TikTok that pisses me off is I was following this really cool this lady, this black woman, Nigerian, I think, but her and her husband, they have a son. They settled in the US, but their roots are from Nigeria, and they travel in I don't know. Is it I don't know, what do you call it? What do you call it in the States? Like, we call it a caravan, not a caravan. What's the name for it? Like a
van?
Like a, like a digged out, like not a train.
Oh, an RV?
Yeah, an RV. That's what it is. So they have this amazing RV. I've been following them, like, just globetrotters, man. Amazing, like jet setting, following their journey for ages. So tell me why I was so pissed off when I saw this like DC lady all of a sudden start appearing, her account started appearing on my feed, and they just happened to have gone and purchased the same RV. And it's so interesting. You read the comments and people are like, wow, this is amazing. I'm like, yo, this beautiful Black lady over here and her family have been doing this. But I was just like, where have these people been, man? There's been this family, just amazing how they paid off their I mean, this story it's very, very cool, inspirational. But I'm just like, how come on, TikTok, how are you gonna be pushing this white lady?
And it's crazy because it's like, it's not even that's a story that I haven't heard. Obviously not that specific one, but I have heard one. Another Black woman who was trying to do the van life or RV life, and she just was not getting the same traction, compared to other white content creators doing the same thing. But it also ties into the Black and brown dancers versus white dancers, which, I won't have to say like big names because I'm not trying to get attacked, but like we see that alone. And I don't know, because I don't have TikTok. I know at some point there was like a maybe not protest, but like the Black and brown content creator dancers were like, we're not doing it. And I feel like that's still going on, because at least on my my feed, even though I don't have TikTok, I'm sure you know, like it'll still pop
Yep.
up on Instagram, like the reposts. I feel that there's still that where they're not creating content because I'm
Mm.
seeing all these other um, white
Yep.
content dancers that do the same choreography. Like, no
I know.
shade.
Boy, they can't even dance. You call them TikTok dancers because that's all it is. But actual choreographers, and I know what you're talking about because I follow, like on TikTok, I actually don't follow BookTok, not at all. Like my TikTok, I started because I wanted to do book talk, but once I saw people, I was like, nah, these people are they're full of it, man. I was like, nah. And then I love dancing, so I was following choreographers, and I was also following when that happened. But it's for real, man. Like, yeah, it's reposted on Instagram, but yeah, uh you get like DC folks doing the same, like copying, not like their 5 second dance, and then the awesome, BIPOC folks with their like actual choreography, their choreographers, their dancers for a living.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, definitely not getting the traction or that attention. And you another way you see that is through the numbers, right? The likes
Right.
and you're just like, how is it that these amazing dancers are not getting their flowers, but you have like this 10-second dance and
And me,
dancing on
you'll
a
let me know.
table and all that.
Yeah.
That stuff. That's what I'm talking about. That. Those folks. Yeah. Sorry, man. Man, look at me. I'm just going taking you right off track right
No.
now, man. We're all over the show. We're having way too
Having
much
a good
fun.
time. What can
We're
I
not allowed to have
say?
fun. I forgot to tell you at the beginning. We don't have fun on here. We're not allowed to. No smiley, no giggling, none of that.
I think it's
Self
a little too
care,
late.
a little too, yeah, just a little, just a little. Self care. I know. I'm sure you are a busy, busy, busy woman. What strategies do you use to cope with stress? I'm sure trying to balance work and life can get a bit much. So, how do you cope with that stress or look after yourself?
Yeah. I think it's for me, sometimes just getting away, not
Mm,
necessarily traveling, but there are some days where I'm like just not days, not days, but when I need
mm,
that time, like, maybe I might binge a show, like, and I'm not on my phone. Like when I'm in a
mm.
binging mood,
Right.
like it's it I am dead to the world,
Mm,
like you can text me, I'm not gonna respond until I'm ready. So it's kind of like taking a step back, and not like entertaining it. It's not that I'm ignoring what's happening. It's just I'm not going to entertain it. And
mm,
also, I think just having a really, really strong support system, whether it's to just rant and vent or if it's just to have a moment of crying, like,
mm.
because we have those days, something that builds up and you just have to like let it out. That is in resting. Like I love to sleep anyways, but
Mm.
but if
So good.
yeah, right. So it's like if I'm just having where I need to take care of myself, I'm going to sleep or I'm at least going to be in bed. Like
Mm.
it is what it is. That sounds extremely lazy. I'm not lazy, but there are moments where it's just like I cannot physically do this or I don't want
Mm.
to. Um yeah, that it's not a word, but it works for me.
Yeah, and you know what? Like you do not even have to try and justify it. And I say this to say that this is definitely a question I ask all my guests that come on here. And, for many of you, it's just sometimes forgetting to just disconnect and take time, to be with family or even just to look after yourself. And there's nothing wrong with what you've just said because like for me personally, like right now, Saturday, like I'm working Monday to Saturday. Saturday, we're having middle school sports. It's 4 sports at the moment. So I've been just telling everyone, well, like I get home and I have to like shower, eat, nap. like, because it's been a rough, like, Monday to Friday, super full on busy. Saturday, got to get up early again, catch a train, go to sports. Today we played away. So I literally just say, well, my Sundays is my lazy, like, that's when I'm just going to chill. So, I just say that to say, like, I get that. And I've had friends who said, sometimes I just get my nails done. Sometimes I'm just watching Netflix. Sometimes I'm just catching up on sleep. And I'm like, yo, I totally get that, because when life is just so full on, sometimes that's just how you do what you do. And sometimes it's a walk around the block. Sometimes it's just dancing and blasting music, and that's cool. That's all right, because you're getting that downtime, and it's good for the soul, for the mind and body. So no, please do not have to justify it all. I was like, yes, sis, I get it. I totally get it.
Well, I also just love that you're like, you had said, like, this is my Sunday, and my friends know that is my go-to. Like, if I'm not working, but I have, if I'm like you, working Monday through Saturday, and I only have Sunday off, it's my Sunday. I'm not doing anything.
Exactly. And I'm so dramatic. Like, everyone knows it's for sports, and I'm like, don't be making plans with me on a Saturday. You got to be super special. And actually, was it last weekend? I went to dinner on a Sunday. Otherwise, I was just like, sorry, this is the one day I can come. Between this time and this time, I will be there. But the whole time I'm there, I'm like, I must control. Self-control. Don't be getting crazy drunk, because gotta go to work on my, it's all that. It's like, I'm gonna enjoy the company with my fam, with my people, but guys, I gotta go to work tomorrow. So it's like, you're going, but you're still kind of like, no, behave yourself. Now's not the time. No one needs a hangover on a Monday. So so good for you, sis. I love that you can do that. Nothing wrong with that. I love to do that too. So.
I was gonna say, I feel like low-key we might be sisters.
That's it. For life. Just putting it out there. Book recommendations. I mean, I feel like we've talked about so many things that I didn't even get to ask you about what you do, which is, you are a book reviewer, you binge read books. And what are you reading right now? Is there do you want to drop some gems, or maybe promote some of your indie author friends? What have you got for us, sis?
Yeah, so what I'm currently reading right now is it's called The Weight of Blood by Tiffany Jackson. And
is that Tiffany D. Jackson?
Yes.
That wrote the book where I listened to the audiobook. Why can't I remember right now? I read it in 2020, and it's she talks about Biggie and that. Have you read any of her other books?
I have not. This is my first one from her.
Sorry, carry on. It's not about me. Stop it.
No. But if it's good, like,
I love it. She's
okay.
Awesome.
So I'm reading that, and a coworker had described it as, like, kind of similar to Stephen King's Carrie.
Ooh,
so
I've
never
different.
Okay. So I've never read Carrie, but I feel like Carrie's a classic. So it's like, I'm here for it. So I'm reading that. I'm also reading Stephen King's Desperation. This is my first book by him, so this, like, it's great. But as far as recommendations, I love Jasmine Guillory. She does the wedding. Okay, so
Yes. I actually I know that you posted way back about her. I've read all the books.
Yes.
I recommended it to Sorry, carry on.
I haven't started it yet, but I have the newest one, Drunk on Love, by her. Yeah. And
there's a new one. I'm gonna go buying the ebook straight after this. As soon as I get off. I don't think I'm sleeping tonight. Stop laughing. This is all your fault. I need to go now. Oh, sorry, carry on.
I love her. My favorite is The Proposal. So if anyone's like, oh, where, like, which book? I've said in a couple episodes of my podcast that there are some that I like and some that I don't, but she's an author that I look forward to seeing what she comes out with,
Yeah.
So The Proposal is my favorite. It is the sequel to The Wedding Date, but you don't have to read them in order. For your listeners or watchers who might not be familiar.
Nice.
So Jasmine Guillory, American Gods by Neil Gaiman is really good. The show, not so much, but the book is really good. And that's that sci-fi fantasy. Final Girls by Riley Sager. It's kind of like a dark one. I put Riley Sager with Jasmine Guillory. Anything that he writes, I will be in line to read. But specifically Riley's Final Girls. I'm trying to give you a range.
I'm excited. Now I'm just like, take note, going on Amazon after this, going to buy these books.
It's Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Really good. Such a great noir, like it's a different kind of like horror. For those who might not have read it, definitely worth the read. And sorry, we're looking at notes.
No, you're good. Go.
I would say Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. I read that.
Yeah, you did an interview on that. Were you on the news?
I was.
This one, I forgot to ask. I was like, do you do stuff like that often where you like guest appear on these news?
No, I was a sucker.
I was like, girl is famous. Up to what are you up to? And I was like,
first of all, your memory is amazing.
I was like,
that was like what, 2 years ago or almost 2 years ago?
I was like, I need to ask her. She might be famous in Boston, and I'm like, she's not sharing this with me. Like, come on.
Not at all. Not at all. No, I was the sucker that was like, sure, I'll do it. I think my
too.
What'd you say?
Super professional as well. I was like, okay, sis, I see you.
No, it was really fun. It was for Women's History Month. And when I was asked, it was like, I think I had 3 days to read the book, but that specific one, Dread Nation, and I loved it. Like, I'm a slow reader. It takes me a while, and I don't like reading like a physical book at home. So it took me forever. Don't ask me how that, as a librarian, how that makes sense. But it is what it is.
It is what it is.
But I read the ebook at home, and I just went. It was like water. I just went through it. It's such an interesting read, an interesting take on the aftermath. Oh, so those who might not be familiar, it's essentially after the Civil War, and the dead become zombies. So it's a zombie book, but it's also taking place after the Civil War. It's a great book, and it's YA, but it's very fast read. And The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides might be also one of my favorites as an adult. I think it's worth the hype when it first came out. And it's a good, quick, fast read.
Man, you had such a wide range of book recommendations.
I want to give you options.
Great. Fam, if you're listening or watching, get onto it. I'll be putting up the pictures of the books. I'm excited. I'm going to find that book. I'm going on as soon as we get offline. I'm going to Amazon. And if I didn't see it, it's all your fault, man. All your fault, Christina. All your fault. So, oh man, it's been awesome. We're wrapping up the podcast, but I like to give guests just the opportunity just to drop some final gems or words of wisdom to end the show. But before I do that, man, I've said it right throughout. I appreciate you taking the time just to share space with me. Like, I feel like we go way back. Like I said, it'd be like about 20 minutes ago. I feel like, we've met in real life. It's just such I love your vibe. fam, for anyone watching, listening, the Binging Librarian, on podcast platforms, catch her on Instagram, check out the podcast. Love your vibe, love your energy, love what you're doing with your platform. Definitely here to give you flowers and show support for that. I look forward to seeing how your platform continues to grow. And of course, as you drop more book reviews, that's exciting. So to the audience watching, please get amongst it. Support the sis out doing her thing out in Boston Public Library with the green lamps from the movies. I mean, let me stop. So yeah, just we're in October now. Wishing you all the best as you
as well
work towards final months at work, and I hope that you please stay safe out there. I hope you and your family are good. Just look after yourself, and yeah, I will just hand it over to you to just wrap up the show with some words of encouragement.
No, you're giving me a big big weight to lift. No, like I said, I don't know about gyms, but just do your thing. I don't want to be cliche, but if you want to do something, do it. If it's writing, if it's just a reading goal, if it's any kind of goal, if it's even starting a podcast, whatever, do it. It's not gonna hurt, and have fun. I feel like if it becomes too serious, then maybe kind of take a step back. I think the day and age that we're in right now, everything else is already serious. So if you're trying to start a project or start a goal, it's never that deep, in my opinion. So
the Binging Librarian, everyone.
Yay!